Good morning, very warm welcome to our peopleHUB today in July, halfway through the year now. I am super excited today that we are talking about AI in the workplace. We have let the genie out of the bottle now. AI is with us, we need to embrace it. I think what is very interesting is as a country and business owners, if we do embrace, and obviously after Craig talks to us today, helps us to think about how we can use AI better, then it puts us in a strong position across the world. Also, I know there's a lot of HR leaders, HR business owners on the session today as well. So what will be interesting is so that we can think about how the workforce is going to change over the years to come. So I'm going to hand over to Craig in a minute. I'm delighted to have him on the session. I had a sneak peek at his presentation last night, and it is fantastic. And he is definitely the expert and the right person to talk to us today. We haven't got long, as you know. We have our 45-minute session. We keep it to that short session so that we can get some bite-sized information. But Craig has said that he can follow up and do a longer sort of workshop with us as well at a later date, which would be fantastic. If you've never been to peopleHUB before, welcome. My name is Victoria, which I forgot to say before, and I am the chair of peopleHUB. One of the things that we do is we love interaction within the session. We don't want to steal sort of Craig's flow. So rather than just sort of ask a question throughout, we will wait for questions at the end. But the great way to do that is to follow Slido. So if you are not on your phone, if you want to just take... just grab the screen now so that you can follow the link, and then that will take you to our Slido channel. You can pop on any question that you have along the way, and then what we'll do at the end, if we've got sort of a couple of minutes at the end, we'll run through these questions. And if we run out of time, please still put them through, because Craig will, I'm sure, answer them for you, and we'll share them in email. But I'm going to stop talking now because we've got a lot to go through, and I'm going to hand over to Craig. Craig, a very warm welcome today. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No, my pleasure. So let me share my screen. So we've got that sorted. Right. Okay, if you can confirm that you can see my screen, then we'll crack on. Yeah, are we all good?
Yep.
Yes.
Dan? Okay, perfect. Right, so thank you for having me. So first of all, I'm going to go through this. We don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to do my best. And like Victoria said, if you have any questions, message them and I'll answer you at the end. And of course, I'm happy to, do follow-ons or anything like that should you have any further questions. AI, right? What is the fuss all about? So this is going to be our agenda today. We're going to do a tiny bit of theory and understanding, so it won't bore you. We're going to go through a framework that I use, which will help you get better outputs from things like ChatGPT. We're going to talk a little bit about some use cases within the, the HR community, and you guys will actually know it better than I. And then we'll follow up with some other questions. But first of all, myths and legends. So obviously there are lots of myths floating around about AI. What's it going to do? What's it not going to do? So here are some of the ones that I kind of hear the most from the people that in the businesses that I talk to. So the first one is that it's like an instant solution, for all business challenges. Well, that's absolutely not true, really, because at the end of the day, AI does require like a well-considered strategy. You have to put in precise data, and you always want to iterate and improve. And really, AI is only as good as the people directing it. Okay, so what do they say? A good workman never blames his tools. So it's very similar to that. The next one that I always hear is, oh, it's only good for automating simple jobs. Well, that it does automate simple jobs, but it does so much more, from like data analysis, predictive analysis. It can do sophisticated relationship management. It can work on your own personal business strategy. It can find like problems within your business plans. It can find insights within data, which we'll cover shortly. So it's not literally automation and that is it. Another myth is that it's always accurate and unbiased. Well, that's always so not true. So it also depends on the data that you put into the AI. So we have this cognitive bias, right? Sometimes we only want to see things that we want to see. So if you put bad data in, you're going to get bad data out. And of course, which I'm going to talk about shortly, when using ChatGPT, that you've got to be careful, and I'll explain why. Next myth, AI is a replacement for the human workforce. So this is probably quite pertinent for you guys. And wow, I get this one a lot. Now, yes and no is the answer. So McKinsey did a study recently, as you can see on the slide, and they thought that 70% of tasks can be automated by employees. But that also is kind of a good thing, right? Because it will allow those kind of boring tasks to be done by AI. It will reduce human error. And who knows, maybe we'll get a 4-day work week because AI has done all the work that we need to do, right? So that'd be quite cool. But where there is a real opportunity is this guy, the maestro. So if you imagine you've got the human maestro, and around you've got all these bots, and these bots do different things: market research, data analysis, marketing, all sorts of things. But it still needs that human expert to make sure they're all in harmony together and playing a nice AI tune. So for that reason, I say to people, if you're just coming out of university or something like that, or you want to upskill or reskill, becoming a prompt engineer or whatever you want to call it, a lot of companies are going to need that. Because whilst, AI can do a lot of things, you still want that human person looking over it. And of course, we've got a product market fit. So if I always give this example, if somebody came to me and said, "Oh, I want you to create some AI efficiencies for an oil rig." Well, I've never been on an oil rig in my life, right? So how would I know what to do? However, if I sat down with somebody that had 10, 20 years experience on an oil rig, I'm sure we could come up with some amazing things. So there is definitely a product market fit. All that information, all that knowledge that you've built up within your career, you still need to direct the AI. And that is actually really, really, really important. How about AI won't affect my business? Well, of course it will, because first of all, it could free up time and efficiencies, which, you know, one way you look at it, it's going to increase your bottom line because you might not need low-level human talent to do certain things. And also your competitors are going to be either implementing it or they're going to be on it. And by implementing it, ultimately you do cut costs, it increases your bottom line, increases your profits, and maybe those profits could go into marketing or, other ways of business development to get more business. So it will affect your business. And it's too expensive or complex. Well, no, it's not. These days, there are so many kind of technologies or services all wrapped up around, AI, and it can fit various budgets, various different complexity levels. So it really is accessible for all businesses and all individuals. I mean, even ChatGPT Plus, which I would always recommend, is I think $20 a month. So let's now do a little bit of learning and understanding. Okay, so what is prompt engineering? You may have heard prompt engineering. It could be called, I don't know, prompt design, the prompt whisperer, like the horse whisperer. So ultimately, it's the art of crafting the right questions in order to get the right output from AI. So it's like you're basically good at chatting with AI. Now, what is generative AI? So generative AI, oh yeah, by the way, you can see there on that slide, you can use it across all different LLMs. So it doesn't have to be OpenAI, it could be Claude, Perplexity, any of those. So it's a really good skill to have. In terms of generative AI, look at this. I mean, are you going to read that? I'm not even gonna like humor this. This is how I explain what generative AI is. So if you imagine you've got this master chef, right, and you've got a pantry, and the pantry is basically this massive knowledge base. And in ChatGPT's perspective, it's the web, right? They've scraped the web up to a specific date, but not just the web, journals, scientific journals. It can transcribe YouTube videos. It has a lot of information. And that information then goes to the LLM. So when you ask a prompt, right, the LLM does its algorithmic thing and processes exactly what you're asking for it to do, and that is your output. So think about it that you're in a restaurant. You order something. I want pasta. Okay, so they take the order to the chef. Table 3 wants pasta. the chef goes, pasta? It's like, okay, fine. And he'll just give you some plain pasta because it doesn't know really what you want. Okay. So if you say, I want pasta with a bit spicy, lots of basil, I don't want this or I don't want that, no olive oil. Or they go to the chef with the instructions. He then looks at the pantry and sees all the different bits of things that he can do, and then he creates your perfect dish. So really, a good prompt engineer is a good communicator, right? Bad input in, bad output out. Remember that. Okay. Now, here's an example of good and bad prompts. You've got a bad prompt. Tell me where to holiday in Europe. So imagine you're talking to got into a travel agency, Thomas Cook. There are other good travel agencies available. And you go in and say, tell me where to holiday in Europe. So what's the person going to do? But if you say, tell me where to holiday in Europe, a great relaxing weekend for two. I want outdoor activities, a touch of luxury. We enjoy hiking, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I want a maximum flying time of 3 hours from the UK. Gives a lot more information, right? So that's why you have to be very, very specific. If you go to ChatGPT and you say, tell me about Barcelona, it'll probably tell you about the football club. But if you say to ChatGPT, I'm an architect, tell me about Barcelona, you're creating some context. It'll probably tell you about the architecture. I'm a food critic, tell me about Barcelona. It'll probably tell you about some of the food and the restaurants there. So that is a very basic difference between good and bad prompt engineering. Now let's talk about the generative AI, because I'm sure you've heard generative AI. So what is generative AI? Well, it's a type of AI that you can create new things. So it can write stories. I do this with my daughter all the time. Poems, music. It can create code. It can create video now. But not just that, it can do some really other cool stuff like problem solve, data analysis, which we'll come into. ChatGPT. I'm sure you've all heard of ChatGPT. And ChatGPT is what really brought AI to the kind of forefront of popular culture, right? I mean, it's always been around. It is the most amazing tool at your disposal, and it will literally become your best friend. It drew in what, 1 million users in 5 days. It's got the way it's set out is in a very kind of simple conversational manner, because it understands natural language processing. So it understands what you're trying to say, the context you're trying to say. So ChatGPT is the most amazing tool. And we're going to talk about ChatGPT shortly. It can be used for marketing, data analysis, software development, creative industries. There's no reason now for writer's block or creative block, because it can give you so many ideas. In fact, ChatGPT got me out of a parking fine. So you can ask me about that later. I mean, it saved me £60. It's brilliant. Now, the way I want you to look at ChatGPT is like a library. So if you imagine you're sitting in that really comfy leather sofa and you're surrounded like by the best minds that have ever lived, because remember, ChatGPT has journals and books and all sorts of information. So imagine you're surrounded by these great minds, and your prompt is basically asking the all-knowing librarian to do a task, to ask a question. It's like in that episode of The Matrix, or that scene when Keanu Reeves's character suddenly wakes up and says, I know Kung Fu. So you've literally got all these amazing minds and resources at your fingertips. If you wanted, you could have the Bill Gates, the acumen of Bill Gates, the visionary of Elon Musk, the sales of Zig Ziglar, copywriting style of Joe Sugarman or Oprah Winfrey, whatever you want. Okay. And it's so powerful to actually understand this. However, there is a caveat. The way ChatGPT works is literally a game of probabilities. It guesses what it thinks you want based on your input. So it's a calculated guess. Remember, it's got a vast database of human text. The more you sharpen the more details that you provide, obviously, the better probability that it's going to output what you expect. Okay. And you've also got to be careful, because sometimes ChatGPT does something called hallucinating, where it actually doesn't give you the right information. So if it's a use case where you've got to make sure it's the right information, obviously fact check it. And also be wary that it's been trained on data from the internet. So I could upload something to the internet which is completely factually untrue, and it may not know that. So, you know, it's skilled, but make sure that you always kind of check its output if it's a use case that's relevant to check. I've rushed through the theory and understanding, so I hope you understand it. You should now understand like what prompt engineering is. You should have an understanding generally what generative AI is, and you understand what ChatGPT is. So how can you get the best from the library, aka ChatGPT? Okay. I do a process which is prime, prompt, output, dance, prime, prompt, output, dance. And when I have delegates come to my training, I literally have them singing and shouting it so they really remember it. It's good input in and good output out. So let's talk about priming for a second. What is priming? So priming is ultimately setting the context, okay, of what the thread, the ChatGPT thread is going to be about. Now, if you imagine you're the director of a play, right? You've got characters in that play, storylines. So is a character a friendly health and fitness guru? Is it a sergeant major type health or fitness guru? And obviously, when you choose these characters, the output will be very different between somebody that's very friendly, somebody that's a bit more sergeant major like. So that's kind of like the character. What's the theme? So is it a light-hearted play? Is it dark and gloomy? And the thing is this, is that when you prime your ChatGPT thread, and I'm going to give you some really good ways that you can do that, it's remembered within the thread. So all interactions will be done based on that initial prime that you put into ChatGPT. So let's talk about prompting now for a second. What's prompting? So prompting is simply giving the instruction, like asking it, telling it what to do, what is its task. And I like to think of it like a wish. So, you know, oh, I wish I could create a 30-day social media calendar knowing exactly what my audience want to see. Well, you know what, we can do that. And I can show you how. Right. Some tips when it comes to prompt engineering with ChatGPT. One wish at a time, one message at a time, one task at a time. It's the old adage, if I throw you 10 balls, you're not going to remember, you're not going to catch any, right? If I throw you the one ball, you'll catch it. The same as ChatGPT. And of course, the magic of detail. Always be detailed and don't be lazy. Because if you're lazy, I could say to the genie, my wish is for riches, right? And the genie might think, okay, he wants riches. Let's put £1 million at his feet. But actually, my definition of riches is a healthy and happy family. We go on nice holidays. So you've got to be very specific, okay, when it comes to ChatGPT. And remember, it's just a good conversation. If you're good at communicating, you'll become a prompt engineer in no time. So you prime it with the context. What information does it need? You prompt it with the outcome. So what is the goal? Is it to create an email? Is it to like find insight within data? And here's a little trick. Ask. So you want a clarification statement. So you could say to the end of, you know, your prompt, if there's more information that you need, please ask me. Because then you're allowing the AI to kind of open up its legs and run and say, actually, you know, you're not providing this information, and I'll give you a much better output if you do. So it will ask you. So let me give you a very basic prime prompt example for like a product launch campaign. The prime and the context could be, imagine you're a digital marketing expert character tasked with creating an email campaign for our new eco-friendly water bottle. So we've set the context. What's the outcome? Generate a compelling subject line, an email body that highlights the product's sustainability unique features, aiming to the goal to increase email open rates and drive pre-orders. And in this case, my clarification statement was, if you need more details about the product's features or our target audience, ask. So that's what happened. It asked. So it said to me, you know, okay, so what are the materials that it uses? And I've made this up, right? It's made from recycled plastic taken from the ocean. Who's your target audience? I like literally that target audience, which you'll see shortly is terrible, is very basic. And why do they care about this product? Again, I just literally made it up on the spot because they care about reducing plastic waste and chemical-free materials. Look at the subject line it created based on that. Transform the ocean one sip at a time. Meet your new water companion, even with some emojis. Now, as um, a marketer for many years, I don't know how long it would have taken me to come up with a subject line like that. You could ask it for 10 examples. You could ask it for use the FOMO angle, fear of missing out. You could say use an empathic angle, use the children are our future angle. And it will just give you lots of different examples that you can use, but obviously that would then resonate with your customers, that who you're talking to. So let's prime. I always like to prime ChatGPT with a real expert. So ChatGPT, I liken to a Swiss Army knife. It is the most amazing tool, and it can do anything like a Swiss Army knife. Very, very, very versatile. However, if you want a more specific task, you need precision. You need precision tools. So if I'm a fisherman and I need a fishing person's expertise, it would be like, well, they need to know what bait to use. They need to know what rods to use. Are we fishing in lakes? Are we fishing in oceans? Are we fishing in rivers? Is it night or day? What we're trying to catch? So these are like skill sets. And the competence is like the feeling that they know what to do. So you will turn by doing this ChatGPT from like a very Swiss Army knife versatile generalist to a precise expert. And I'm going to show you an example how we do it at Hartz AI. So this is Penelope. Penelope is an absolute expert at generating client personas or whoever you want to talk to. So whether you're talking to stakeholders, your staff, right? You're communicating. So this is what she does. She creates them. Now, she has a certain level of expertise, and some of them are here. So when we create experts, we have competencies, okay, and we have skill sets. Her competencies are things like neuromarketing, consumer psychology. But when you dig deeper into her skill sets, like, for example, under consumer behavior understanding, trend forecasting, she's skilled in consumer profiling, she's skilled in psychological analysis. And this really helps in terms of your marketing communications, right? Because if you know your audience, who you're talking to, it's going to upgrade your outputs from ChatGPT. If we're talking to somebody like John, it's going to be different how we talk to Megan, on how we talk to Christian and Pam and so forth. So from a kind of like marketing 101 perspective, if you create your customer persona as part of your prime or who you're talking to, you're going to get much better communications, to meet the needs and preferences from these people. This is like Hartz AI's persona. He's Adrian Reed, he's 54, but that's all really boring stuff. That's like demographic information. But we want to know, like, what is his real pain points? What's his real fears? What's his expectations from a company like mine? What would your target persona's expectations be from an HR consultant? And when you know that, you can put that in all your communications, right? And this is what I found that was really, really interesting when it came to Adrian. So if you read here, well, I don't know if you can see it, but it says personal accountability. As a leader, Adrian feels the weight of responsibility for the livelihoods of his employees. So his decisions about AI not only affect his business, but also the well-being of his team. He's probably grown up with a lot of his staff, and he knows that it's important. So could I use that in my communication as the underlying message? Of course. So we now have a very super important prime. So you could say, to give you context, this is the type of person we are talking to. Make sure you take this into consideration when writing any emails, marketing materials, all that good stuff. And I always like to ask why, why. So by asking the AI, why have you chosen this? Why have you written that? Why is it this subject headline? Why have you not done a different headline? It will give you its reasoning. And by doing that, you actually really understand how the AI thinks. And it will make you think to yourself, am I on the right path? Am I not on the right path? And then you can make your own human decision whether or not, you feel that way. So basically, in terms of the prompt template, we've got the prime and the context, remember. You've got an expert, you can give it background, the different scenarios, who you'll be talking to. You've got the prompt, which is the outcome, your task or the question, the instruction, and your clarification statement. So if you need anything else, just ask me. So how can we use it, right, within our own businesses? Of course, We've got marketing and awareness, which is you've probably already heard of. So it can create person owner creation, message hierarchy, marketing strategy, all that good stuff. But this is really cool in terms of research data and insights. So you can upload anything, and it can summarize content. It can analyze complex data sets and give you some really amazing insights. It can provide and prepare strategic reports to stakeholders or whoever you feel in a way that would resonate with them, right? It can do predictive analytics for future planning, like what if scenarios. There's many things that it can do. And I always call it prompt engineering your way to data intelligence glory, descriptive intelligence, diagnostic intelligence. The point is, and the reason you ask why, is that the AI provides another viewpoint in the room. So it can argue with you, or you can argue with it, okay? And not feel bad that you're shouting at it. So there's lots of things that AI can do. It's from that perspective, it's very important. So I say to my delegates, should we all become instant MBAs? Because AI, it understands frameworks, right? So you've got these business strategy frameworks. You've probably heard of these. You probably haven't, like SWOT analysis, I'm sure you've heard of. Porter's generic strategies. I've never heard of it. But what it can do is it can take like the top management consultancy firms, they're the frameworks that they use, and we can put it in our own business scenarios. So I could say, we're looking to launch this service in a new market, create a SWOT analysis, giving me, the reasons why, the strengths, opportunities, threats, and weaknesses. And you can even say to it, I want to launch this thing in this product in another country. What would be the best framework that you think would give me a detailed analysis? So if you're not sure which one to use, you can ask it, right? Which is also really powerful. You can chat with absolutely anything. So you can chat with your financial statements, technical manuals, research papers, email threads, business plans. Remember, ask good questions, you get good answers. So one of the things that we do in my courses is, I've created Sunshine Electronics, which is a fictional company. I had ChatGPT create some fictional accounting statements, and then we ask questions to it. We say, well, what's the reason why do you think the reason for this spike in sales? And it will give us reasons. So there's lots of things that we can do with that. It's really quite amazing. It can problem solve for you. So there's something called Tree of Thought. It came up in Google DeepMind, and the method allows ChatGPT to literally mimic human problem solving. And the way it does that, it will create, if you put in your problem, it will create 3 experts. They will literally argue with each other until they all agree on an outcome, and then they'll give you that outcome. I mean, it's crazy, right? Unbelievable. So some HR use cases. So I was looking into, I'm not in HR, so you guys, and this is where the product market fit comes in. We're probably thinking much better ideas than I. But, in terms of recruitment, you can optimize the recruitment process. So identifying best candidates based on not just their skill, but their cultural fit into the company, the potential for long-term growth within the company. You can create AI-driven personalized employee development programs for like the L&D people. So the programs will adapt naturally to the learning styles of your staff and what their career aspirations are. So obviously this approach can massively increase the skill acquisition and professional growth of your staff. You could use it for automated and empathic employee support systems. So literally, but you can have a 24/7 bot that's trained that before they come to HR, they can talk to a bot and find out, well, I'm not feeling that confident. What are my rights? What can I do? What are my opportunities? So there's a lot of things that you can do. And Victoria asked me just to cover a bit of data and security when it comes to AI and all the tools. So, it's very similar to anything that you upload online, and you've got to be, take the necessary precautions as you would anywhere. So in terms of data storage, yep, ChatGPT has a server somewhere, and it's going to save your conversational history in your data, right? I think there has been recently a breach. So, you've got to bear that in mind when you're using it, the information that you upload. And I think ChatGPT says that if you have the paid version, it won't use your data for training the model. but who knows? So you've got to be wary of all those things. So really, in terms of the best practices, is avoid sharing sensitive information in there like you would anywhere. Sanitize your inputs. If you're doing data analysis, you can remove names and addresses, but still get good data from it. Use the privacy settings that are available to you and consider alternatives. So, which is called private GPT. So you could always hook up to something like Azure, where they offer like a private GPT environment where, you know, they claim that your data is safe. But remember this, anywhere you upload your data, it's as safe as the security of the company that obviously provides the service. So I rushed through this as as quickly as I could because I had literally not much time. So I think we can, Victoria and Maisie and Dan, I think we can open up for any questions that people have.
Craig, that was absolutely fantastic. And it didn't feel like you rushed. I feel like I've learned so much. I was looking at the screens and so many people are sort of just really intense. We didn't have any questions for a while. I think everyone's just been
I
taking
didn't
it all
allow it,
in.
did I?
No, it was brilliant, brilliant. So let me just have a look at, I think Dan's going to load up the question. Here we go. Here we go. So first one is, what tasks would you suggest are best suited to AI for, you've mentioned this, I think, for HR management. Do you think there are any kind of tasks that aren't a good match for AI when you're thinking around sort of
Well,
HR?
look, obviously face to face, right? You know, we still need face to face and the human touch. But I would turn, so I would turn this back to you, right? And I would say, what tasks take you ages? What tasks would you like to improve? What would be the wish list that you have that would really help in your role and within your business? And 9 times out of 10, that could probably be either automated with smart automation or automated with AI, which we call intelligent automation. So it's the product market fit. I'm not in HR, so I can't tell you, but you guys have been in HR for years and years, and you've got these careers that you've built. And that's why having a conversation with somebody within, you know, their own sector is so important. As I said, with the oil rig
Yeah.
example. So I can't really answer that, but I bet you could. I bet you come up with some great ideas.
I think, Craig, obviously before our session, as a sort of tech business, we've been talking quite a lot around sort of what we can do. And I totally agree with what you're saying. And I think a lot of HR consultants that I've talked to agree. You can't take the personal element away. So I really don't believe HR is dead by any way. I don't think we'll all be made redundant. But we've been looking at things like sort of trends. I'll definitely be talking to you, Craig, about it. But, you know, like the data that we have a lot of management information, a lot of data, absence records, trends. There's so much time that's taken to pull those reports together and analyze. So that for us is probably the first area that we'll look at. I think your other idea before was fantastic as well. You know, there's a lot of employee sort of questions for HR that are basic. They're in the policies, you know, that the things that could be fed in that are very easy to be answered, that take up a lot of HR, or there's business owners on the call here today, take up that time. So that again. And then on the health and safety side, I think wow, that could be quite incredible, you know, in terms of like near miss and trends and preventing accidents. So yeah, I could talk about all day with you, really.
I mean, Victoria, you know, so you talk about the people missing work, sick days, and what have you. And if you do have that data, you don't need to know Excel anymore, really. If you have that data over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, whatever that data set is, you can literally upload it and just say, you know, what are the you know, what days or what segments were people most missing work over the last 4 years or whatever. And then you can obviously use those insights. It's about asking the right questions to get the right answers to then future proof and plan, say, well, based on our data, for some reason, the day after a World Cup or final, everyone's sick, you know. So,
Yeah,
well,
Monday.
yeah, I mean, no one's going to turn up to work on Monday. Everyone's going to have a sick day, right? So, and you can use that to kind of prepare things, or, you know, maybe we shouldn't have these really important stakeholder meetings on these days because historically, a lot of people, for whatever reason, are not well.
Yeah, no, no, really unbelievable. It's very thought-provoking, this session. Next question here is, how does AI learn? Can it fact check itself? I think you've answered this, but maybe if you want to sort of just run through that again.
Well, so the thing is this, it can't fact check. Google can't fact check. If you look from a semantic SEO perspective of Google, it's given the information, but it doesn't really know if that information is true or false. Okay. If enough people say something is true, then Google will think it's true, even though it could be false. So what you can do is you can use something like Perplexity, which scrapes, I use it now pretty much as a search engine. So perplexity.io, I think it is. You'll put in your question and it will actually cite the source. Okay, so even with 4.0, the free version of ChatGPT, it can scrape the web and then it will say where it's got its source from. So the only way I would fact check it is I would look at the source and make my own decisions, whether it's true or false. And as I said, in certain use cases, it doesn't matter as much for policy and these things, it really does. But what you can do, which kind of like answers the third question down about the upload facility, is that if you've got your own internal policy and data, you can have ChatGPT answer those questions simply based on that data. So it's true. And then you can have it it's true. You can say, well, where on this policy of 1,000 pages have you got your answer from? And it will show you. So that'd probably be the best way.
Okay. Now you did talk about some, being careful of some bias in AI. So one of the questions here is the bias in AI algorithms, which you answered. But if so, how do we tackle this for HR processes?
So again, really, it's about if you were to use it in a perspective of you're not potentially looking for data online. Okay, so this is kind of like internal policy. If you upload data that is very biased, has a cognitive bias, then it's going to find it. So really, I wouldn't even clean data as much. I would upload very raw data where there's no bias, that for whatever reason, whoever's compiled the data, it could be the questions that you're asking people. There could be a bias just in the questions, because you're trying to get to an output. Like, how do you feel, working at Hartz AI? The answers could be amazing. And the final answer could be, yeah, okay, as opposed to terrible, I hate it. So that's kind of like a bias within itself.
Yeah.
Right. So really, again, I would say to tackle bias, it would be better to upload your own information and your own data where you hopefully haven't created your own internal bias.
Got a question here around the dance phase. If you could explain what you mean by your dance phase, and is that about improving the output?
Yeah, absolutely. So prime you understand, prompt you understand, hopefully. Didn't go too quickly. What the dance is, it's basically it's going to give you an output. And this is where you dance with it and you talk to it and you have a conversation with it. So like if it's Penelope, who's the customer persona expert, she could say, I think your customer persona is this. And the dancer would be, well, I actually disagree with you, Penelope. I think it should be this. Why have you chosen that? And she'll give her reasons. And I say, actually, I still disagree. Please redo it based on what I think their salary is. And that's the dance. Why have you decided to create this headline? Because of this reason. Well, actually, I disagree, or I agree with you. Or, okay, so now let's go down this route. So we gave an example of PPC headlines or ideas for blog posts. So I have a LinkedIn training, and what it does is you literally can, based on your persona, it gives you ideas of topics that Victoria Brown would want to hear from me based on her persona. So I have these topics. So I go, I want that topic. And then it would give me a list of headlines. So the dance would be, I like this headline, but can you change it into a more of a curiosity angle? Can you move it to more of a fear of missing out angle? Can you move it to a more of clickbait angle or whatever you want? And that is basically the dance.
Right.
And that's why we're not all out of jobs, because you still need that knowledge and that product market fit.
Yeah. Absolutely. I have a question. We haven't talked a lot about you, Craig, and your business. And I think there's probably quite a lot of us here who get quite excited by this and go, right, yeah, okay, let's see, how can we take this to the next step? So could you just tell us a little bit, Craig, about your business and maybe some of the actions we can take from this session?
Yeah, of course. Well, I actually fell into AI about 2 years ago, where I turned one of my businesses. I've always predominantly been in digital and e-commerce, from negative to profit. and then I sold that. And the way I did it was using Midjourney. I don't know if anyone's aware of Midjourney. It's like it's a tool for creating images. So rather than paying designers, and I'm sorry to say it, 50 to £100 a design, literally in pennies and credits, I was creating these most amazing designs, and they sold. So literally, in terms of my bottom line, it was like, okay, fine. And that's what got me into the AI. And because of that, I'll speak to everyone about AI, you know, this, that, and the other, and I'll go down the rabbit hole. To cut long story short, I was asked to do some presentations. They went well, and then thus Hartz AI was born. And in fact, 2 days ago, I won an award, literally, for Hartz AI. Right, thank you very much. And if you check out my LinkedIn, you'll see my little speech where I bring up my 7-year-old girl onto stage just to make her happy.
Oh.
Yeah, so now really I do training and consultancy, both online and in person. I love in person because I can just see the reactions of people and how it changes their thoughts, ranging from the foundations of prompt engineering, which I'm actually running one in August. It's 3 days, 12 hours, 4 hours a day. Homework, you come out of it hopefully with a lot of knowledge. Things on about LinkedIn, how to use ChatGPT for your LinkedIn content, how to use data analysis. So you can see all the little bits and pieces that I do, either on my website or, you know, connect with me on LinkedIn.
Brilliant. Well, what we will do after the session is we will share your information with everyone. And then, as you say, because obviously you've had to cram so much into such a short space of time, which you've done so well. Because when I first looked at the presentation, I thought, you're going to get through that. And you did. You smashed it. So thank you.
Yeah, I know, you freaked out.
Well, I'm conscious of time now, but thank you so much, Craig. That was brilliant. We will share your details and the recording as well. So for anyone that's not been able to jump on today, or anyone that's on the call that thinks this is fantastic, which I'm sure you will, feel free to share this recording. And let's spread the word and embrace AI.
Yeah, I think so.
So thank you everybody for today. Thank you for joining the session. Our next session, Dan, have you got the screen for that? Or we're back in September. So we will send over, obviously August, busy time for people away on holiday and things. So we will share the details in the next week or so for our session in September. I think given the election recently as well, we will get an update, an employment law update session in at some point as well for you. So that'll either be September or October. So we'll keep you posted. Thank you very much for attending today. Don't forget, if you've not joined the community on LinkedIn or Facebook, you are very welcome to. And you know, the idea being that we have these sessions, but we also share and work together within the wonderful world of HR. So thank you guys. I will see you in September.